Hi guys, what's up, what's down, sideways? Day 58, chronic fatigue syndrome. My friend, my enemy, my constant companion. You gotta say it like that as well, like my constant companion. Um, and I don't really mean my enemy, I just mean like that perception thing. So, day 50. Woo! Yeah! Uh, I was thinking of writing an article on uh, you know, find yourself or your loved one recently diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia syndrome or ME, or I think maybe even for any other chronic illness. I don't know. Um, I've had experience with rheumatoid arthritis as well. And at the very top of the article will be step one, don't go on to any support forums. I haven't come up with any of the other ones just yet, but I think that one's like a priority. Because last night, again, so I spoke about it yesterday, like again, it was, hey, my I have been recently diagnosed. What do I do? Or like, my child's had this for like blah years and they're starting to show signs of depression and anxiety and like blah. And, and the responses. Now, for me, it's funny because I can observe it. But I could only imagine, funny, but I could only imagine what it'd be like for the person receiving the the answers, for asking, like, these people are desperate, they're alone, they're scared, and some of the responses are downright interesting, you know? Um, like, it, you get everything from like, just be positive and it'll all get better, or like, yeah, I've had this forever and you're going to die, or like, oh yeah, my doctor thinks CFS is caused by depression too. And like, if you've been sick for a really long time, you're going to feel down. You're going to exhibit signs of depression, anxiety, and I would not be surprised if you develop those things. Because if you're sick for any length of time, you are going to feel down. You're not going to be able, like, it's a it's just like, come on, are we still here? 20 years ago, it was the whole, oh, CFS is depression or anxiety, or like, that was 20 years ago. My friends in school who had CFS, they were being depleted. It's when you combine two words together. Shakespeare's got nothing on me. They were being treated for depression. There we go. Like, their CFS was being treated as depression, and they were on medication, and like they were like zombies. They're just lifeless, and these weren't lifeless people. It was just really sad to see that, just because someone decided that, oh, you're blah blah blah, here's some medication. It's like, they didn't treat the chronic fatigue syndrome, you know. Um, I will certainly give, what I like about psychologists, pretty sure this is the right one, psychologists, they'll give you the tools to handle what's going on inside, which is really cool. I mean, like, if every human being had access to little book on, like, this is how we can learn to handle our emotions and express ourselves in positive and optimal ways, and we were taught that in school, that'd be really good. Not having been to mainstream high school, I don't know if that has been added to the curriculum. But so far, I've not met anyone who's come out of high school from my generation, or even to like today, have that dealing capacity. Some schools that include psychology and they do basic psychology will actually include that as part of it. So they do get some tools, but they're still human, and they ignore the tools. So anyway, so the tools given out by psychologists do help. I would advocate visiting a psychologist who is tool-based and who will give you the tools to work through what you're going through, what you've gone through, and then so that you can get to wherever you want to get to. I get very wary when people's responses to things are medicate. If it's not like a, oh my goodness, you need medication now, otherwise you're going to die. But for mental things, tools, I will concede that some people need the medication to bring them into a good enough place that they can start using the tools maybe, and then, get rid of the medication and then so on. I would concede that there's possibly scenarios where that is ideal. Okay? Not a trained medical professional. This is just my experience of people who have dealt with that profession with chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia syndrome. Counselors, I would stay away from counselors. If you can, I'd go to a psychologist over a counselor. Counselors, I've known counselors to do more harm than good, and most of them, and I'm generalizing here, but most counselors that I've come across who deal with people with chronic illnesses really just make things worse. But I've met counselors who have been in a good headspace, who have had chronic fatigue syndrome, be really good at counseling. Because they have a level of empathy that not a lot of other people have. They've had to work through the stuff themselves, so they know what tools will work and what tools won't, what tools are available, what worked for them, and then what to share. So there is a level of interaction that's really good. But generally I found counselors haven't done so well with the chronic illness area. I am generalizing. If you find a good counselor, go you, and they help, go you. I'm not knocking every counselor out there. I'm just saying, in my experience so far, I've met one out of, I'd say 10 plus kind of thing over the years, with either myself or other people. So, I'm basing the world of counseling on 10 people. But okay, so that's all the information. Take what I say or don't. It's always up to you. Psychologists, yes. Tools. So getting back to the support groups, oh my goodness, and like that toxic positivity where if you just think better, you'll get better, or what was the other one? Meditate and you'll get better. Like, don't worry about exercising, just walk. Walk is the best thing for you. I want to get back on that one. So my number one on the you've just been recently diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. 1, do not go to a support group. Because what support groups should do, they don't always do, and it's kind of potluck as to who's going to respond. Because you've got everyone from who's just starting CFS and are in a bad place, and they're going to spread bad place. Or you've got people who have been, who've had it for a long time, who are in a bad place and are going to spread bad place. Or you've got people who have had it for a short time or a long time, and are in a bad place but don't spread bad place. And then you've got people who have had it short or long time and who good place is really hard. I think a good place is more of where you understand that you're, like, you accept what it is, and that you're moving forward. That kind of good place. I don't mean like you're healed or you're covered. That's not necessarily what I mean by a good place. But the people who aren't in a good place, who verbalize or who spread that not good place, they're often the ones who hang out the most in the support groups and get there first. Once again, the support groups are a lot better than when I was younger. I have seen a lot of good positive stuff come out of it, but at the same time you still keep seeing the same. It's cyclic, chronic fatigue syndrome is evil. Chronic fatigue syndrome has ruined my life. It's like blaming water for being wet to spite you. You know, chronic fatigue syndrome does not care about you. It's and I don't mean like it should care about you, you know, your life. It's non-sentient, like the water's wet, not to spite you, but because it is. Chronic fatigue syndrome is just is. You're not chronic fatigue syndrome, you experience chronic fatigue syndrome. So I would stay away from support groups until you've got yourself in a good enough place where you can observe. And then I understand there's a catch-22, like, but James, where do I go then to get the support? Yep, that's the catch-22, because at the moment I don't have a suggestion, and I don't usually like saying don't do a thing without providing a solution. So for the moment my solution would be don't go to a support group. If you want to go to support group, learn to observe and don't take things on personally. So my friend used to teach me, don't let it go past your elbow. So if you hear sad news, don't let it go past your elbow and straight to your heart. Okay, learn to observe, like watch the maze, don't run it. And then with that mindset, maybe go into a support group if you really need a support group, but just learn to observe and be a bit more tactical, a bit more less emotional with what you're reading and then receiving, because otherwise it can make it worse. It can actually make it worse than the loneliness you're feeling right now. And I feel for anyone who's either got chronic fatigue syndrome or their loved one has chronic fatigue syndrome. It's really lonely. It really is. So I understand wanting to reach out and connect. It's just a normal human thing. So if you need to reach out and connect, just observe, okay? Because you're going to get other people's woes as well, and it will stack on yours. So look after yourself, because you're important. So thank you very much for letting me share with you day 50 and the start of the, hey, you got CFS? Here's a little what to do. I may actually build that out and share it with people, because there's quite a few suggestions. So if you have any questions or any feedback or suggestions for today, please feel free to comment below. Like, share, subscribe, little notification button, and thank you very much for letting me share today with you, and I hope you guys have an awesome weekend ahead.